Today I'm going to show you how to make this little crystal drops necklace. Now this uses pretty large Swarovski drop crystals. This is about 22 millimeters in length and it's about 10 millimeters at the widest point. Now you don't have to use the large Swarovski drops for this. Don't let it limit you. You could use a briolet of any type as long as it's top drilled. But there again, you could use a large bicone crystal, come down through the hole vertically, put a little seed bead on the end, and then come back up also. So you can do a fringing stitch to get your drop with some other kind of crystal. So don't let it limit you, just be creative with it. There's also little Montees in the center of each one of these little units. Now I'm going to get really close so you can see this. Under these bright lights it's very difficult to see the detail in the crystals. So let's get a little closer here so you can see the Montees. Let me see if I can bring my camera forward and come straight down on them. Okay. Well, I don't know if you can see it or not. Let's scoot back a little bit again and back off, and I will turn the lights off and see if you can see them a little better. There's a little bit more detail there. You can see what it really looks like. These are Alexandrite, so Firepolish beads. So they change color in different light. So sometimes they look really dark and sometimes they look really translucent. So that's why you get a different look. But I want you to see what each individual unit looks like. There's a little Alexandrite Monte in the middle also. So that's what the units look like. And let's go ahead and look at the beads we're going to need for this project today. Okay, so let's look at what we'll need for this project today. We will be using 4mm bicone crystals. These are Swarovski and they're clear. We will also be using 6mm round beads. I'm using a Firepolish 6mm round. It's an Alexandrite. Now you can use a 6mm bicone if you'd like, and you could also use just a regular 6mm round like a pearl. That'll work just fine too. You will need 11/0 seed beads and 8/0 seed beads. I'm using Toho's for both of them. My 11/0 is the galvanized aluminum, which is the silver tone, and my 8/0 is an AB translucent purple. Then you will need some little Montees. These are 4mm Montees. These Montees have the little holes in the back, 4 little holes. See if I can get really close so you can see them. Like this. And you can use whatever kind of Monte you want. You'll just have to adjust your stitches to them. So this is the one I'm using, and it is also a lavender color, an Alexandrite. Okay, let's back off a little bit. And then you will need some top drilled beads. Now this is a very large Swarovski crystal I bought at Fire Mountain Gems. This is 22 millimeters in length and about 10 millimeters across at the widest point. And you can use any top drilled large type crystal that you want. You can use a drop Firepolish, whatever you want. As long as it's a drop shape and it's top drilled, it'll work very well. It doesn't have to be this big, but the smaller you go, the smaller the presence on your necklace it's going to be. So just pick whatever size you like. Any size will work. Then you'll need a clasp. I have chosen to use this little silver tone toggle clasp today. You will also need 2 wire protectors. I'm using silver tone wire protectors. You will need a size 10 beading needle and several yards of 8-pound Fireline. Now you'll want to thread onto your needle about 2 wingspans of Fireline. I'm going to use about 1 to start with, just so you don't have to watch me pull it through for an hour. So go ahead and start with that. You will need several yards of Fireline, and you will have to extend or tie on as you do this. let's go ahead and get started. To start, you will thread onto your needle 5 Firepolish beads and 5 4mm bicone crystals. Start with a Firepolish bead, end with a bicone crystal. Make sure you alternate the beads as such, just like this. Once you have done that, bring them down to the end of your thread. However, you need to leave a fairly long tail, because the unit we are starting with will be our centermost unit. We will build one side of the necklace, and then we will use our tail to extend our Fireline and build the other side of our necklace. So leave at least 6 inches to extend your Fireline. So once you've done that, you're going to tie your beads into a circle. So take your tail and your working thread and tie an overhand knot. Make sure that your knot goes down between your beads and not on top of them. Tie another knot. Once you've done that, just leave your tail there and sew back through with your working thread all of the beads. To reinforce this and ensure that the crystal doesn't really cut the thread. Fireline is strong, but crystals are sharp, so you just always want to reinforce it if you can. So now I'm back to where my knot is. I am going to sew past my knot down into the centermost 4mm bicone crystal. So if you look at this, you'll have a Firepolish on this end and a bicone crystal on this end. You want to go to this bicone crystal. So we're going to sew down to that bicone crystal and exit it. So now you will see I am coming out of the centermost bicone crystal, just like that. And we're going to start this by adding our drop first. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, 4mm, an 11/0 seed bead, a drop. So pick up one of your large crystals. Then pick up an 11/0 seed bead, a 4mm bicone crystal, and an 11/0 seed bead. Bring all of these beads down to your work, like this. Let me see if I can move this so I quit getting out of frame here. There we go. Now, I came out of this side of this little bicone. I'm going to go into the opposite side of the bicone. I know my hand's in your way. I'll show you in a minute. Just go into the opposite side and pull your beads down into a loop like this. Then we will pick this up and we'll just sew all the way back around all of these beads to secure them. So just go down into the 11/0, the bicone, the 11/0, and the drop. And then on the other side, do the same thing. Sew through all of them. Come back up through the bicone that you're anchoring to. Now your tail is going to get in the way. Just kind of keep moving it out of the way. This is what you should have, just like this. Now we're going to sew up into the Firepolish bead right next to the bicone crystal that we're in right now. So just go up into the bicone crystal. Pick up an 8/0 seed bead, 3 11/0 seed beads, and an 8/0 seed bead. You're coming out of this bicone crystal, you're going to go into the opposite side of the bicone crystal, like this. And pull the beads down around the Firepolish bead, just like this. If I said bicone, I was wrong. It's the Firepolish bead we're working out of, just like this. Okay? Then you're going to slide through the 4mm bicone crystal that you're right next to and then up into the next fire polish bead like this. And pull the thread through. Tighten everything up, and then pick up an 8/0 seed bead, 3 11/0 seed beads. Now, we are going to go into this 8/0 that we just added on our first loop that we made. So we're coming out of the bicone on the far side here. We're going to go into the 8/0 seed bead like this, and then we will go back through the fire polish bead that we're anchoring to right here, just like this. Just going to pull your beads like this. Now you're coming out of the fire polish bead, you're going to go into the next bicone and then the next fire polish bead. Pull through. This is where your tail is, so just kind of try to keep it out of the way. Pick up an 8/0 seed bead, 3 11/0 seed beads, and then you're going to go into this 8/0 seed bead here. So come into it and then into your fire polish bead that you're coming out of, like this. Now, if you want to just go through the 8/0, pull your thread through, then go through the fire polish bead, that's fine too, however you want to do it. This is what you should have. Now you're coming out of the fire polish bead right here. We're going to go into the next bicone crystal and the next fire polish bead. Get my tail out of the way. And pull the thread through. This is what you should have so far. Pick up another 8/0 seed bead, 3 11/0 seed beads, come into the 8/0 on your previous loop. I tried to do this laying down so you guys can see it better, but I don't know how well I'm going to accomplish that. Let's see. Okay, and pull it up through like so. And then I'm going to go into the fire polish bead that I started in. Yeah, I can't do that laying down, it just doesn't work. And pull my thread through like this. This is what you should have. Now go down through the next bicone crystal, up into the next fire polish bead. This one's a little different because both of your 8/0 seed beads are already here. We're going to share this one, and then we'll just put the 3 11/0 beads over the top of this fire polish bead. So we're going to come up through this 8/0 seed bead right here. Then we're going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads. We're going to come down through this 8/0 right here. Pull your beads down, and then go into the fire polish bead. And just the fire polish bead, and exit it. Just like this. And this is what you should have. Like this. Now, we are going to come up through this 8/0 seed bead and then into the little 11/0s, and we will exit the middle 11/0. So you have 3, so you'll go up through 1 and exit the second one. So we're going to come up through this 8/0 seed bead right here. We're going to go into the 11/0 seed beads and exit the second 11/0 seed bead. So come up through 2. Then you're going to go directly over to the next set of 3 seed beads and go into the middle seed bead. And pull it. Then turn your work and go into the next middle 11/0 seed bead and pull your thread through. And again into the next middle 11/0 seed bead in each section of 3. And pull your thread. And one more time, pick up the middle 11/0 seed bead And this forms kind of a little star, you can see. Now what we need to do is sew through all of these beads again. So go into the first one that you went into, and then the second one, and just sew through all of these little 11-0 seed beads that you've pulled forward in your last step. Secure them. And get our tail out. Okay, so I have gone through all of my 11-0s. And see what this looks like, just like this. Now, this is the little tricky part. We're going to put the Monty in the middle of the star we just created. So on the top we have one seed bead that's like central, and we'll work out of that one. On the bottom we have two. So what we're going to do is we're exiting this little seed bead right here. We're going to go into the one right next to it, like this. What I'm calling the bottom is the part closest to the drop. So I want to be coming out of the far little seed bead here. So I'll be working through both of these two little seed beads on the bottom. And like I said, the reason is that you have a center point up here, but you don't on the bottom. So you have to use the two seed beads so that you can center your Monty. So I'm going to go through my Monty in the two bottom here. The two bottom little, well, it doesn't matter which, just go through two holes. It's kind of at a diagonal. You can see I'm just going to bring my needle through, and then I'm going to bring my Monty down, make sure it'll lay correctly on here, just like this. Now you just have to finagle with it a little bit and see which way it needs to lay and how you need to anchor it. Now I'm coming out of one side of these two little 11-0 seed beads here. I'm going to go into the other side. So I'll go into this little seed bead next to the one I'm coming out of, and then back into the seed bead I'm coming out of. So I'll pull this one through, and then I'll go through the second seed bead here, right here. And then gently pull it through because your thread is going to want to knot. Bring your Monty up like this. Now we're going to sew through the next 11-0 seed bead right here to get us to the top so we can anchor the top of our Monty. Come into the very center seed bead that we talked about, the little 11-0 that's very center. Come through it. Then go through the other side of the Monty, the two little holes right here. See if I can get this. Just like this. And pull the Monty down, and then go into the opposite side that you started in on the 11-0 and pull. Pull the Monty down tight, just like that. Now, you can just leave it like that if you want, but I don't think it's quite secure enough. So what I do is I use the holes again this way. So what I'm talking about is I will go into, let me hold this so you can see it. I will go into this little 11-0 seed bead right here in my work. The little side ones that are the peak that we joined together. And then I will find the little holes again. This time, instead of going through them the way I did at first, I'll go through the opposite way. So I'll just find my holes again. I'll show you what I mean. Right here. Go through it, pull it down, and then go back into the bead that I'm coming out of, like this. I know this looks complicated. All you have to do is just sew through your beads until you get to a point where you can go through your Monty on all four sides so that you anchor it down where it's not wobbly. There's no specific way. You just have to kind of find a way. Now I've sewn down through my 11 O's. Here, I'm going to sew back into the next 11 O in my center here, and get up to a side 11 O so that I can do the other side of my Monte. So I'm going to go through this 11 O here. Then I want to go through this 11 O right underneath my edge of my Monte, like this. And then I will come up through the Monte again. I know my hand's in your way, but I'll show you once I get my needle through. I'll show you where I'm at. So right here, I'm through the 2 holes again. So you can use the same holes. It just depends on, you can use your holes to anchor it on the bottom here and on the top. It just depends on the way you enter the holes of your Monte. And then I'm going to go back into the bead that I'm anchoring to right here and pull this all down very tightly. It's like this. Now I'm going to sew up into the little bead I'm right next to, the little 11 O, up through the 8 O here, and pull. Now our tail is here. We just want to ignore it. We're going to go up into the bicone crystal. I'm going to turn this around so you can see where I'm at here. Just like this. Let's back off. Now what I'm doing next is I'm going to build my necklace this direction. Now my tail is here, so I know that I can reserve it for this half of the necklace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew coming out here, and it doesn't matter what bead you're coming out of after you anchor your Monte. It doesn't really matter. Just you need to move yourself over to this bead right here. So you'll be, this is the centermost Firepolish bead. You want to come out of one of the bicone crystals next to it, preferably not the one your tail is coming out of. So we're going to go through this Firepolish bead here, and I'm going to exit through the next bicone crystal, like this. And this is where I can start my extension so I can build my next unit. And this is my first centermost unit that I've just created here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up a 11O seed bead, a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11O seed bead, and a 4mm bicone crystal, and an 11O seed bead. This is what you will have on your needle, just like this. Now, we are coming out of this little bicone crystal right here, the one right next to the centermost Firepolish bead on our unit. We are going to go into the opposite end that we're coming out of and pull these beads that we put on our needle down to that bead we're coming out of, just like this. This will be our connection. So what we'll do now is we'll sew all the way around this again because we want this connection to be strong. So just come up through all of these beads that you just added. So down through the bicone that you're connected to here. And then we will sew up to this little 11O seed bead because that is the one we're going to make the rest of our extension with. So just go up through the 11O, the bicone crystal, and then through the 11O on the top here. This is what you should have. Now we are going to pick up another half of extension here. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to pick up an 11O seed bead, or no, not 11O. We're going to pick up a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11O seed bead, a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11-0 seed bead, and a 4mm bicone crystal, like this. So you'll have crystal, 11-0, crystal, 11-0, crystal. You're coming out of the 11-0 on this side, you're going to go into the opposite side of the 11-0 and pull your beads down, like this. Okay, now we're going to sew back through all of these beads that we just added, and then we will sew back up through until we get to the top bicone crystal. This step is to ensure that our piece is strong and will not break. And it also secures the beads, makes them nice and neat so that your piece isn't sloppy. So you really don't want to skip the reinforcement steps. Now we have gone through all of them. We're going to sew until we get up to the top bicone crystal. So I'm going to sew up here, through this 11-0 here, and then into the bicone crystal, just like so. Now, we are going to start with our next circle to make our next unit. So this will be counted as one of our bicone crystals. So we'll start with a bicone, and then we'll pick up 5 fire polish beads with 4 bicones in between. So you've got your bicone, and you'll pick up fire polish, bicone, fire polish, bicone, fire polish. Oh, let me get these down here. Bicone, fire polish, bicone. Just make sure you have 5 fire polish beads and put a bicone in between them. I've just tangled myself up. Okay, so you don't need the last bicone because it's already on there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fire polish beads with 4 bicones onto your thread. You're coming out of this bicone crystal here. You're going to go into the opposite side that you're coming out of and pull your beads into a circle, just like this. Get the tail out, like that. Now pick up your beads and sew all the way around them again, so that we can secure them. Okay, so I'm coming out of the bicone crystal I started in. What I need to do is get to my centermost bicone crystal on the bottom again to add my drop. So I'm here, I'm going to sew to this one. So if you're on your connecting bead, just sew through the fire polish bead and exit the next bicone crystal, like so. It's like that. This darn tail. There we go. Now we're going to add another drop to this bicone. So we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, a 4mm, an 11-0 seed bead, and then we'll pick up our drop like this, go through the drop, well, maybe, there we go, like so. And then we'll pick up an 11-0, a bicone crystal, and an 11-0. So what you will have on your thread is this: 11-0 bicone, 11-0 crystal, 11-0 bicone on 11-0. Now we are coming out of this side of our bicone crystal on our unit. We're going to go into the opposite side, just the bicone, and pull the drop up like this. So now we have to, of course, sew through our connection here. So let's sew through all of these beads that we just added. once we get back into the bicone crystal, there we go, like this. Once we get into the bicone crystal, pull it tight, make sure everything's secure, and then go through the next fire polish bead on your unit. Just exit the fire polish bead. Just like that. Then we will start making our center portion. So we're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead and 3 11/0 seed beads and an 8/0 seed bead, like such. Now we're coming out of this side of this little fire polish bead. We're going to go into the opposite side of the fire polish bead here and exit. And then push those towards the center, like so. And then we will come up through the next bicone crystal and the next fire polish bead, and we will exit the fire polish bead. We will pick up an 8/0 seed bead and 3 11/0 seed beads, just like this. And then we will go around. We're exiting here. We're going to go into this little 8/0 seed bead right here. I know my hand is in the way, but I'll show you. The 8/0 seed bead. Pull your thread through and then go through the fire polish bead that you're anchoring to right here. You can also go through the next bicone crystal if you can do it all at once here. And then you'll just hop up into the next fire polish bead. Hang on, my thread is all tangled. There we go. So I'm exiting this little bicone crystal. I'm going to go up into the next fire polish bead and exit it like this. And then we're going to pick up an 8/0 seed bead, 3 11/0 seed beads. And we are going to go over the top of the fire polish bead and into the 8/0 seed bead in our previous unit here, just like this. And pull. Go down into the fire polish bead here. And then again, skip your bicone crystal, go through the fire polish bead next in line, and exit. Pick up an 8/0 seed bead and 3 11/0 seed beads. Go up through the 8/0 seed bead in the previous unit. Make sure you come up through the bottom of the bead. Don't go over the top of it because your thread will show. Now you're exiting here. Go into your fire polish bead, skipping the bicone that you're right next to. Go into the fire polish bead. You can go into the next bicone too if you can finagle it. And pull. Like so. Then we have our last one to do. We have our 2 little 8/0 seed beads already. So we will use those and we will just add our 11/0s. So we're going to come up through the 8/0 seed bead here, like this. We're going to pick up 3 11/0 seed beads. We're going to go down into the 8/0 seed bead here. Pull it tight. Then you will go into the fire polish bead over here. The last one that we're covering. And pull. Just like that. And that's what you should have. Funny looking little thing. Then you're going to come up through the 8/0 seed bead. So just, you're coming out of this fire polish bead. Avoid this little bicone crystal here. Go up into the 8/0 here, and then go through 2 11/0s and exit, just like this. Now we're going to use the centermost 11 O's and connect them. So we're coming out of the middle 11 O. And this little section of 11 O's, we're going to go to the next section of 3 11 O's and pick up the middle 11 O. And pull. Turn your piece, pick up the next 11 O in the center. And again. And again. And then you need to connect them all together again. So go through all of them one more time. Every center bead that you picked up. Now you can do more than one at a time, or you can do one at a time. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you're getting just the centermost bead. Pull them into a star shape. Okay, so this is what we have. And push those down. Now we are going to go to the very 2 bottom beads again, right here. And we're going to exit. Let's get real close. So I'm coming out of this one here. I'm going to go down to these 2 here. And exit the second one like this. And I'm going to attach my Monte again. So I will go through, go through the 2 little bottom holes here like this, pull it down like so, and then I will go into the other side of the 2 beads that I am exiting. So I'll go into this bead here and then into the one next to it and pull my needle through like so. Then let's back up just a little. Then we will sew up to the top bead. So I'm exiting this little bead here. I'm going to sew the side middle bead of my little star that I created in the middle of my unit here. And I'm going to come up to the centermost bead here. I'm going to flip my little Monte so I can see, and then I'm going to go into the top holes here like this. Okay, pull it through. Then I'm going to go into the opposite side of the bead I'm anchoring to. Maybe. There we go. Alright, pull. Then I'm going to sew down to the side, one of the side beads here. I'm going to back off because we already did one really close up. I'd rather be in frame here. Now I'm going to look at my Monte again and come through my little holes diagonally on the side like this. Now I want to go back into the bead I'm exiting. Like so. I'll sew back down through the bottom and over to this side and anchor the other side of my Monte. So I'm going to sew through this bead. Then I'm going to sew through this bead. Just take your time doing this. Just finagle it the best you can. Do it as neatly as you can, because if you do not do this neatly, you're going to see thread everywhere. It's going to look funny. Just take your time and sew it down the best you possibly can. Go into the little bottom holes again. here. Then go back into the bead you're exiting and pull it tight. Now, once you pull it tight and kind of push the beads down, you won't see your thread. See? Like this. Just sew it neatly, keep the thread behind the Montee as much as possible, and it should come out pretty good. Now, we're coming out of one of these beads here. Let's see which one. I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty with my eyes lately, so give me a second here. And then I'm going to go down into the bead. I'm right underneath, and the 8-0 right next to it. I just want to exit and get to my outer beads again so that I can sew up to this little bicone crystal. So I'm coming out of this 8-0. I'm going to go into this Firepolish bead, and I'm going to go into this bicone crystal. Now we're going to do one more extension, and then I will let you do 2 more units exactly like we did these. So right here, you want to come out at an angle, so the bead next to the centermost Firepolish is the bicone you want to be coming out of. Pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, come here bicone, and an 11-0 seed bead. Go into the bicone crystal, like so. Sew up around all of the beads that you just added. Come here. Okay, once you get to the connecting bicone, go through it and then sew up to the top 11-0 in the beads you just added. Here, and then you will pick up a bicone crystal, an 11-0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, an 11-0 seed bead, and a bicone crystal, and then come through the opposite side of the bead you're exiting, just like this, and sew up through them again and secure them, just like so. Once you get to your connecting bead, where am I? Here. Then you need to sew up to the top bicone crystal. So let's sew all the way back up here. We'll go through the crystal and exit. Just like that. Now, we're going to start our next unit. So go ahead and pick up your 5 Firepolish beads with 4 bicone crystals in between. Connect here, sew around again, and do the entire process again. You will make 2 more units and then we'll be back. So you'll have your center unit and then you'll have 3 units next to the center unit. Okay? So altogether you'll have 4. Be back in a minute. Okay, so I've made my 4 little units. This is my centermost unit where my tail thread is, and these are the units I just finished. I'm coming out of this crystal right here at the very top, the crystal that we would come out of to make our next unit if we were to make one. However, now we're not going to make any more of these units. We're just going to make an extension to come up around our necks. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and a crystal, for 4mm crystal, an 11-0 seed bead, a 4mm crystal, and an 11-0 seed bead, like this. Let's get a little closer and bring this down. And we're coming out of this side of our crystal. We're going to go into the opposite side of the crystal on our unit and pull. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can continue going up the units I'm going to make with just crystal, or you can use some of your fire polish. We're going to try to use some of the fire polish also, just to kind of save on crystal. So we're going to reinforce this little connection we've just made, so all the way around it, just as we have been doing, just to make sure that it's a nice strong connection. And then sew up to the top 11-0 seed bead. So we're coming out of this little 11-0 seed bead on top of the crystals here. We're going to pick up an 11-0, a fire polish bead, 3 11-0 seed beads, and a fire polish bead, and an 11-0, like this. So then we're going to go into the opposite side we're coming out of. So we're coming out of this side, we're going to go into the other side and pull these all down like this. Now we're going to sew back through this just to secure it and keep it from flopping around while we try to add our next unit here. So just go through all the beads you just added, and once you've done that, then we'll sew back up all the way to the top seed beads. So sewn around, I'm coming through this little connection bead, and now I'm going to sew up through the 11-0, the fire polish bead, and then I am going to go up through 2 11-0s, exit the second 11-0, like so. And you're going to pick up an 11-0, a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11-0, a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11-0, like this, and you're going to go back through the 11-0 on the opposite side that you're exiting from. So you're exiting here, you're going to go through just this little middle 11-0 seed bead, just like this. Just like that. Now we're going to sew all the way around this again. And the reason I do this is to keep everything neat and secure and strong. So, yeah, you could just go make your next unit, but things get sloppy and they're just not strong enough if you do that. So, sew around each unit. It's an extra step, it's a pain in the butt, but it's important. So I'm back to my connecting bead here in the middle, and then I'm going to sew back up to the top, 11-0. If I can make my needle actually do what I want it to, there we go. Now I'm going to come up through the top 11-0 seed bead, and again I'm going to use my fire polish beads and my 11-0s. So we'll pick up an 11-0 seed bead, excuse me, a fire polish bead, 3 11-0 seed beads, and a fire polish bead, and whoops, flew off, and an 11-0 seed bead, like this. Bring them down, go through the opposite side, and pull your thread through, just like this. Then, of course, we're going to sew around this unit that we just created, up through all the beads, don't miss any. Go back down to your connecting bead, and then back up to the top middle seed bead. So just keep sewing all the way around, like so. Now I'm in my connecting bead. I'm going to sew back up to the middle seed bead. So I'm going to go through 2 and exit the middle, just like this. And then I will pick up an 11-0, a 4mm bicone crystal, an 11-0, oops, 4mm bicone crystal, and an 11-0, and back through. I will then sew around this entire unit and again add my fire polish beads with my 3 little 11 O's, well 11O fire polish, 3 11O's fire polish, 11O. And then I will do my next set of crystals on top. Just keep repeating the same exact pattern until we have 7 sets of the fire polish beads. So I'm not counting the little bicone crystals, I'm just counting the sets of fire polish beads. So you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Of course, this is going to make right at an 18-inch necklace. If you want longer, then make more of these units. This is totally adjustable here. However many you want to make, just go ahead and make. It doesn't matter. You can make shorter, you can make it longer. It doesn't matter. Just do as many units as you want. And coming out of, well actually, let's end coming out of crystals. Let's add a set of crystals here. So let's pick up an 11O seed bead. I'm coming out of the middle of my little crystals here on my fire polish unit right there. I'm going to pick up an 11O seed bead, a bicone crystal, an 11O seed bead, a bicone crystal, and an 11O seed bead, and I'm going to make my last little unit here in crystal. Then we will attach our clasp. So let's sew back through this unit, of course, just as we have been doing. Now, my thread is very short, so I'm hoping I'm going to have enough to do my clasping here. I think I probably should. But this is where I'm coming out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up one of my wire protectors and my clasp. I'm going to slide my clasp onto the wire protector here. I'm going to have to open this a little bit because my clasp is pretty wide on the bottom. So I'm just going to slide my clasp on there like this. And then I'm going to sew up through the wire protector and then back down through this 11O seed bead a few times. So I'm going to pick this up and see if I can do this. I'm going to go through one end of the wire protector. Then I'm going to go through the clasp. I'm going to hold onto my thread and kind of guide it down. I'm going to go into the other side. I know my hand is in the way, but I'm going to go into the other side of the wire protector here. I'm going to hold it all very tightly and squeeze and guide my wire protector down like this. Then I'm going to go into the opposite side. I'm exiting from the original 11O seed bead that we're anchoring to, just like this. And then I'm going to sew back around this several times. I will come back down into my bicone crystals and through my 11O seed beads and make a couple half-hitch knots. And then I'll cut my thread off. And once we do that, we'll be back and start on the other side of the necklace. Okay, so I finished my end here. I sewed through it a couple times, so down into my main body of work here, did some half-hitch knots and sewed through and did some half-hitch knots, and then I cut off my little tiny bit of thread that was left, melted it down into a bead with a lighter, and that end is finished. Now we have to do the other side of our necklace, and we'll build it exactly the same as we did this side. However, we need to do something about the thread issue here. So what we're going to do is I have left a length of thread here. I am going to put a needle on this thread and sew it up through this little bicone crystal, just so that my thread is in the right spot. Then I will cut my thread short towards my work and leave enough to tie a knot, and I will show you how to extend the thread here. So first I'm going to put a needle on here. I'm coming out of this fire polish bead here. You just want to make sure that you're coming out of this crystal right here. So this is your centermost fire polish bead. You'll want to be in the crystal next to it. The same one on the opposite side that you're coming out and making your little extension for your next unit. So just go up into this bicone here. Just like this. Take your needle off your thread. Then cut yourself another length of Fireline, a long length, a couple wingspans, if you like working with that much. If not, you can always extend again when you run out. Now I'm going to cut this down to about a couple inches here, enough so I can tie a knot without stressing myself out too badly to tie it. Now I'm going to take the end of my new thread and I'm going to make a little square knot as close to my work as I possibly can. So I have my new thread here. Now you may not be able to see this well. If you cannot, then there is a video that is online called Extending Fireline or Joining Fireline for Bead Weaving. And you can look that up on YouTube and watch it. But anyway, here is my little thread. I'm going to crisscross it with my new thread. I'm doing this upside down, so I'm going to crisscross it with my new thread like this. I'm going to get you very, very close here. Just like this. And then I'm going to go underneath this thread with my new thread like this. I'm just tying a square knot. Then I'm going to take the two ends and cross them again on top here, just like this. See? And I'm going to move this as close to my work as I can so I'm not pulling my knot through my work more than I have to. Pull it tight so you have a little square knot. Doesn't have to be extremely tight, but enough to where it's secure. Then just take both the ends, cut them very short, but enough that you can get your lighter to them, like this. Then I'm going to just very lightly make a little tiny, can you see that little tiny blob at the end of my thread? Just go into the very end of your lighter flame and then pull tight like this. Now I have a joint. It's a very strong joint. It's not going to pull out, and it's small enough where it's going to go through my beads without any issue, especially the size beads I'm using. I'm not going to have any problems pulling that through, and it's not going to let go. My beadwork isn't going to break. It's all going to be fabulous. And we'll sew through our unit, our new unit, a couple of times anyway, which will secure that also. So now I've got a big old long length of thread I can work with. So what we're going to do is we're coming out of this bicone crystal. I will get you started on your first unit again here, so we'll make our extension, and then you will do the exact same thing you did on this side. And once you get to the end, you will make your long length and put your clasp on, and you'll be done. But let's do this. Pick up an 11/0 seed bead. We're coming out of this little bicone crystal here. Pick up another bicone crystal, an 11/0 seed bead, and a bicone crystal, and an 11/0 seed bead. Like this. Then we're coming out of this side of our bicone. Let's go into the opposite side of our bicone and go through it like this. Now my knot is there, my original knot for my original unit, so it's a little hard to pass through. There we go. Now I will be pulling through my little extension knot, and you'll hear a little bump. Just like that. See how nicely that went through? Now I'm going to secure these beads that I just put on. So we're going to sew back through all of these beads. Pull all the thread through. And then once again through the 4mm bicone crystal on your first unit you made. And then we're going to sew up to the little 11/0 seed bead. So I'm going to just work my way up there and through the 11/0, and then let me draw some more of this thread through my needle here. Then we are going to get prepared. Now you want to make sure that your units don't flip around. You put your little, when you get to your next one, you get enough length now. Make sure it doesn't flip over and you put your Monte on the wrong side. So let's do this now. We're going to make our next little part of our extension. So now we need to pick up a bicone crystal, an 11/0 seed bead, a bicone crystal, an 11/0 seed bead, and a bicone crystal. And we're coming out of this side. We're going to go into the opposite side of the 11/0 and pull. Just like this. And sew back through it, of course. Just make sure everything's nice and strong. Now I'm coming back through my 11/0 on my first unit. I'm going to sew up into the crystal here. And here is where we will start our next unit. So we will pick up 5 Firepolish beads and 4 of our bicone crystals, because we've already got a bicone crystal on our unit and we will be sharing that bicone crystal. So you will only need 4 of them, but you'll need 5 Firepolish. Bring them down like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. And then we're going to go back through the bicone crystal that we started in. On the opposite side, of course. And pull it down. Now, you will sew back around this entire unit and proceed making exactly the same. You'll go down here to this little bicone crystal. The one, you'll have a Firepolish bead next to your connection. You will go down to that very next bicone crystal, put your drop on, make your middle section, put your Monte on, move yourself up, make your extensions, make your next unit. And you will do that until you get to the last unit. You make 3 units, and then you'll start making your extensions up around your neck. And we'll be back. Okay, so I finished the other half of my necklace, and I did my units, then I did my little extension up around the neck, and then I put my clasping on. And this is what the finished product looks like. I put it on my neck. It's really pretty. It's right about 18 inches. And it hangs just right. It's really very nice on the neck. I could see this also as like a bridal necklace with white pearls and clear crystals, and maybe even a bead crystal in the middle here, or a frosted white crystal in the middle for your Monte. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this project, and I hope you're having a good New Year so far. And we'll see you again when I come back with another project. Bye-bye.